All right. And with that, it's 12:01. It is Tuesday, February 20th. Time for another Hot Topic Tuesday. Guys, we're going to see how quick and simple this one could end up being. But in the past week, there's been a few things that have actually come up that I think is really quite important that we know. So let me jump to one that hopefully many of you have already heard about. It's a call to action that has come out from the Michigan Association of Realtors. Our government is looking at the aspect of being able to increase the sales tax from $7.50 to where we haven't heard what they're actually doing it. But they want to increase, and this is through the MSHDA, Michigan State Housing Development Authority, that they're trying to increase the sales tax and the income from the transfer tax by $50 million. Okay, now I don't know about you, but as a realtor, when it's already difficult enough to be able to get people into buying homes, future taxes where, because of our current tax situation, this stipulates that when you transfer a deed, the property tax now is uncapped and taxes go way up, which really discourages homeowners from listing their homes, which, gee, that's really a huge problem. Well, let's go on ahead and throw more taxes in to have a seller pay to sell a home. So take a look at that call to action that's out there and notify your local senators to say that we disagree with this concept. Another one that came up a few weeks back, Martha and I talked to you about MV Realty. Who remembers MV Realty? I'm looking at the screen when you see me looking down like this. MV Realty. So this is one where MV Realty was going out paying people typically a few $100s for a 40-year exclusive right to sell. Yeah, you did not hear me wrong. 40-year exclusive right to sell. Well, what I can tell you is that recently the state of North Carolina said that they found its services amounted to fraud and deception. And North Carolina has actually stripped MV Realty of its ability to conduct business in the state of North Carolina. What they quote, "We allege that MV Realty is preying on vulnerable people to trick them into unfair long-term agreements." Nationally, they ended up with 32,000 of these. Nationally, 32,000. We know that they're in Michigan. A few of you have run into this. They did it by placing liens on customers' properties, even though it claims in its advertising that it doesn't place liens. So this was part to the reason that North Carolina did this. But they also, this was an interesting one, North Carolina legislator also enacted a law that bars exclusive listing agreements from being longer than 1 year. Now, why do I bring that out? One, it's a little bit of an update as to what we've had in the state of Michigan. Two, I think it's important that you also know that at this point, this article that I found doesn't stipulate whether or not the current liens are still legal or not. So if you run into it, here's what I can tell you by talking to an attorney on this yesterday. It sounds in the state of Michigan that these things are still legally binding. That basically, as far as he was concerned, the only thing that they could do as an attorney would be to send the "you can't do this" letter, otherwise we will sue, in hope that they would withdraw the lien. All right. So again, that's kind of where it's at. Know that that actually exists out there, and that would be the one thing that you could see coming up. All right. Anybody got rental properties? More in particular, do you have a rental property in the city of Pontiac? I want you to dig this one, if you do. And this, by the way, again, I'm actually at the North Oakland County Board of Realtors right now, and I'm standing in Pat Jacobs' office. Thank you, Pat. Pat has informed me this morning that the city of Pontiac is actually looking at requiring that any single-family residential property, which is for rent, be Section 8 property. That it require that it be rented through Section 8. Yeah, the faces I'm seeing, yeah, you're getting it. Yeah, just nuts. So if you've got a Pontiac property, if you're a landlord with the city of Pontiac, you might want to go to that city council meeting this evening, because they're introducing and reviewing it this evening and apparently voting on it next week. This just hit Pat Jacobs. For those that don't know, Pat is the EO for the North Oakland County Board of Realtors. So that was an interesting one. Let's see. Deb, only because Deb Summers, you sent me something that kind of, it shocked me a little bit. But it was interesting. Can you talk about that deal where they said that a buyer can't pay the commission and the type of financing that was? Can you update everybody on that?
Well, Darwin, I actually wanted to have a conversation with you about this, but you're talking about our new buyer agency form, right?
Well, don't worry about the buyer agency form, but more of what they were saying that you could not have.
So what I was told is right now, should I name the lender or not?
Not the lender, but the type of financing, because
Okay,
that was the
so
requirement.
I have a buyer with a conventional loan that's MISHDA, and the lender said that they rejected our buyer agency form because the buyer's not allowed to pay commission. And so they either want me to go revert back to our old form or have an addendum, which all of this is not cool with the buyer because the buyer doesn't understand. And so the buyers, I'm not sure what direction they're going to go. They may even seek other financing because I don't know if they're going to look at it as a fault of the lender or, you know, how, because this all is just happening, and I'm trying to work on that today, actually.
So the key is that MISHDA wouldn't even allow the contract. We're not going to worry about how the lender ended up with our buyer agency contract. That one's interesting because I've never had a lender go, by the way, we want to see your buyer agency contract. The issue that they're going to face is that this is going to be a standard practice. As a matter of fact, I would tell you, since 1995, when buyer agency came out, most contracts were already written with the aspect of what is new to us, saying that buyer, you're responsible to pay us a certain amount, and that anything that we get credited, well, anything that we get from the seller or the seller's broker gets credited toward that. So know that what I would tell you is, my book, don't worry about it. I don't know why they got a hold of the buyer representation contract. I got to believe that they're going to have to change their mode because if we think about what they're stating, that the buyer can't pay, then how will we get paid if we don't get compensation from somewhere else, which is what this lawsuit and settlement has done?
Well, Darwin, to answer your question, I needed to forward some documents, and I scan everything as one PDF depending on what I'm sending. So I just forwarded it and really never thought it was going to be an issue anyway, but yeah, that's how.
Yeah, so that's really a biggie, guys. So when we send any package to anybody else, the only thing that we really would do is, which is the same thing that we would require, is we want to know that this agent is representing the buyer, or this agent is a transaction coordinator. Buyer's agent or transaction coordinator, we don't want to know. We don't need anything else. Send me your agency disclosure. So it also gives a good one that there's no need to send that buyer representation agreement to anyone else. But an interesting one that Mishta has done this. I've never heard of it before, but know that don't send them the buyer representation contract. All right. But keep that part simple. All right.
Ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Martha.
Deb, was that, was the seller offering commission in that particular transaction?
Yeah, I mean, the way I did it was the commission amount that was being offered was 2.75. So I put that in paragraph 5. I think it's 5. And then paragraph 6 says the buyer receives the credit back that's being offered. And so, you know, that equaled that amount because I knew that my buyer wasn't going to pay more than that. But, you know, I mean, our forms, the buyer themselves could share that with the lender, even if we didn't, Darwin. So, I mean, you know, we can't go around trying to, you know, not share documents. I don't agree with that.
Well, it's none of the, really, whose business is it? It's
well, I
not
get
their
it,
business. That's our
but
contract. That's between us and the buyer. Who else needs it?
Well, agreed, but I'm saying things like sometimes there's addendums and the lender's like, oh, I don't want to see that addendum. But at the end of the day, I get it. And I don't want this deal to die over this.
No, it shouldn't.
You know,
look, we can take care of that, but it was just an interesting one that Mishta has this, and this is the reason I wanted to bring it up. Mishta has this, and it's in direct conflict with what we're running into with the NARS lawsuit and the settlements that Anywhere and all other companies have made. So Mishta's kind of got some rough waters that they're going to have, because there's potential that as agents, brokers, we may not get paid if that was it. So I think it's one that they got to take a look at, and they're going to end up having to make a change for the future. So let's see. I'm going to keep it real simple, because the last thing, guys, that we're in the period right now where we are all about lead generation. And with lead generation, there's a reason for that. So I want to kind of bring it back. So this has been a message since last week's conversation regarding sphere of influence and how to work that. And Karina Ball, love you. You made one thing that just brought it back to me again, which is every one of us woke up this morning unemployed. What a great way to be able to see this. Every morning as real estate agents, we wake up unemployed. So our job then is to go find interviews. Interviews with buyers, interviews with sellers. It doesn't really make a difference. What do we prefer? Interviews with sellers. But either one, we've got to find people who we can interview for the job of helping them sell a home or buy a home. Now, this is really the KISS principle I was referring today, and just reminding you of today's hot topic. Keep it simple, salesperson. You're unemployed. You got to set interviews. You got to go on interviews. Now, if we just put that front of mind, you go on interviews. How do you find these interviews? Again, let's use the KISS principle. Regardless of how you look for it, regardless of all of the speakers and the magic pills that are being offered, the magic gas that will get people to just all of a sudden, gee, I want to buy a home, I want to sell a home. They do not exist. There is no easy way to get job interviews. So here's the simplicity I want you to write down. Number one, you've heard it before. You can go proactively reach out to people. You are going and talking to people. Forget, who or how. Simplicity. You need to proactively reach out to people. You need to go talk to people. Now, go talk to people is the job interviews, but somehow you've got to talk to people to where you get the job interview. Proactively going out to talk to people. You can control the number of people that you talk to. That will allow you to control the number of interviews that you set per week. Okay? Now, that's one way that we can actually set up these interviews. Okay? The only other way, number two, only other way is to be passively active. Every day I'm doing something that will get people to call me, to talk to me. They will come to me. I'm taking some kind of action that will cause these individuals to come and talk to me. Through that, I set up interviews with individuals who could say yes to signing a contract, either helping them buy a home or help them sell a home. So guys, every day, let's simplify it. That's it. And I want you to think about this. If you went on one interview every week, 50 a year, here, take 4 weeks off. 48 appointments. If you go on 48 appointments and out of every 4 that you went on, you could get one of them to sign a listing contract or a buyer representation contract. That's 12 contracts. And if you only got 10 of them, only 10 of them that would result in one transaction. And I'm going to use a low number, 200,000. You just did $2 million in sales by going on one interview every week. And I've increased 3/4 of the people's income by just giving you that simple formula. So, what do you do from this point forward? Wake up every morning knowing that you got to find an interview. You've got to get an appointment for a job interview. Every morning. And you know that you got to do at least one every week. Then you know I've got to talk to people. I know that the best ones I can talk to are the people that I know. If you're afraid to talk to the people that you know, go back and watch last week's deep dive, because there was 4 individuals who gave you great stuff. Take a 1-hour investment and watch that video. Guys, you could go knock on doors. You could go downtown. I tell the group in Rochester all the time, walk out that door, stand on the corner and hand out business cards and ask people a simple question. Do you have any thought of making a move at any time now or in the near future? Keep this thing simple. Real estate is exactly that. You're unemployed, go on interviews. There's only 2 ways to get those interviews set up. Be proactive in talking to people. 2, do all the things where you're active, but it's the business come to you. And there's lots and lots of ways to be able to do that. I want to give you a reminder, every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., Bob's doing a quick 30-minute session to help you in regards to using technology and working with expireds, your sphere of influence. There's all of these things that you can do. All right. So let me check comments here, guys. See if there's anything or anybody has any questions. Yeah, and Alana, I like what you're saying, but that's where, again, the system that I just described is the simplicity of real estate. We have to go on interviews. And there is literally only those two ways. Nobody has ever in 37 years given me anything that goes outside of that simple description. Because here, if we're talking actively passive, well, that's the videos. That's videos on Instagram. That's videos on Facebook and all of the other social media. It could be that you're doing videos in regards to the city that you're in, the school that you're in. It could be that you're actively involved because it was interesting, Martha, with Barb last week. She said, Darwin, there's a third way. No, it still falls into the aspect that community involvement is being passively active. You're out there doing the things that can get people to come to you and talk to you about real estate. So there's all of these things we can do. Direct mail, we can do marketing, promotion, we can do print advertising, but all of those are being actively passive, guys. Let me give you the most simple one you can do. It's an open house, but it's a passively active mode of building business because we're sitting there waiting for people to come to us. Now, could I pick up the phone and talk to people while I'm sitting there at the open house waiting for people to come to me? Yes, that would be active. I just want to emphasize there's only two ways. You go talk to them or you do the things that'll get them to come and talk to you. What those activities, I didn't give you much of any idea other than go talk to your sphere of influence. And I'll still love the one that April gave us last week. She said, Darwin, you may not like this because I'm kind of the going against the grain. I can't remember the way that she put it. She doesn't talk to her sphere of influence that much. She doesn't pick up the phone and actually talk to them that much, but she sends texts, she sends them emails, it's personal. She actually addresses them directly in regards to the social media. She sends them lots of cards. She does so many things. Again, go back and watch that, but I want to simplify it. So guys, I think that's what I got for you today. I hope you've picked up something out of it, got some good update in regards to things going on in the market. Be active out there, but more than anything else, make sure that as always, we're out there talking to people. Boy, what a great day to go knock on doors. I don't know where it's, but I'm looking out at sunshine and I think we're supposed to hit 50 today. So guys, have a great one. Talk to you soon. See you next week for another Hot Topic Tuesday. Bye-bye.